This takes IPI back to its core, which is dialogue and conferences that bring people together from one aspect to another. We've done this over the course of our 61 years in existence, and we find that when journalists can understand each other, it helps in people understanding each other. And this is a core of our foundation when we were founded in 1950. So we thought we'd get back to that. We've done it. We did some things last year and the year before. So we've done it on a smaller scale. Now we're looking forward to doing it on a larger scale with groups like the Israeli journalists and journalists from the Palestinian Territories. This gives us the opportunity to bring together journalists from varying different backgrounds to forge a common bond and talk about how they can better express the differences between them freely and fairly. So we hope that the relationships that are built here tonight will last over the course of a year, if not longer, and that there will be something concrete to help in the Middle East process after tonight and the next 2 or 3 days.
A dialogue is a must. If the two sides do not talk to each other because of hatred, because of kind of animosity feelings, at the end, they cannot understand each other. Now, when you understand the other side, it doesn't mean that you fall in love with the other side. It doesn't mean that you accept the arguments of the other side. You can still have your arguments, you can still have a big gap between the parties. But still, at least you have to understand what is the motivation of the other side. What is what we call Weltanschauung. Usually this is not the case. Usually we prefer just to understand ourselves. We understand everything from the other side as something which is totally black, white. Whatever we think is totally white. And this, of course, makes it very, very difficult, if not impossible, to get to a common ground. Now, meetings like this between professional people from both sides will not convince each other. But I believe that, especially with journalists, who used to inquire, who are used to ask questions, they will try to understand better things which seem to them very, very difficult to understand. And sometimes they will get answers which will be far from satisfying. Sometimes the answers might satisfy them. And this will become a kind of a common denominator on which they can build relations in the future. This is why such an event is very, very important. It will not solve the problem, it will not change the world, but it might make it a little bit better. To the best of my knowledge, the idea of the people behind the event is to end it with a paper which will refer to several ideas about the code of behavior in journalism. I believe that it is very important. And if it is also a kind of a request for the governments to behave differently to journalists, it will be very, very important. Again, it is not that we are naive and we believe that if there is such a paper, everything will change. But it is a very important contribution to a change.
The most dangerous in the world is silence. Because nobody knows what will then on another day, what will be. And dialogue has a sense only if you are not only speaking and talking, but also hearing, listening. And who, if not journalists, has to have ability not only to write and to speak, but also to listen to each other. If the main pillar of press and media is freedom of speech, I hope that they are able to do and to perform this ability mainly among themselves. So I believe in dialogue among journalists because this is their professionalism. Not to do the mistake which was mentioned already during this evening, to think as a free, independent person and not as a close representative of political interests. If they are really open-minded and not closed to ideology or to political limits, then there is a chance to find a way for new social networking, and this is very good first step or second step for building bridges.
Do you have any opinion on the role of an organization such as the International Press Institute in building dialogue such as this?
Not only in building dialogues, but also taking care on the most important pillar of freedom, and this is the freedom of speech based on legislation, press legislation, media legislation, and the feedback and their evaluation of situation in different countries is what is really helpful for the citizens living in different countries.
Oh, I think it's very, very important. It's just the beginning of understanding, or not even understanding, but asking, wondering, trying to understand at least what the other is thinking, what are the perceptions of the other, and so on. It's just a step, but it's an important step. Oh, really, I'm very happy and very proud of it. And as I just thanked everybody who worked for WINPEACE, which is the Women Initiative for Peace, which involves women from Turkey, from Greece, and from both sides of Cyprus. Really, we've been working very, very hard just to create an atmosphere of peace culture. Definitely, we cannot solve the problems between the two countries, but we can show that problems can be solved without violence, with dialogue, by talking, by trying to understand, and so on. And I think we have done that. And we didn't have to wait for a disaster, for an earthquake to happen in order to hug each other. No, we were women, we were more clever, I must say. And we started by changing our language, trying to change our pre-ideas, our cliches about the other. We really had to educate ourselves on conflict resolution, peace, working on peace education. First we learned, and then whatever we learned, we tried to pass it over to others. Well, I hate to give advices, but I think they have to listen a lot. Listen a lot. Learn how to do empathy, to put themselves in the place of the other. Try to understand their perception. And try to avoid some language problems, probably. But maybe listen more to their hearts and spirits.